morning, everyone. Thank you so very much for joining us this morning. This is the press conference for the Metro Women's Caucus. My name is Councilmember Joyce Stiles. We also have the chair of the Women's Caucus this morning, Councilmember Berkeley Allen. We are here today to discuss some recommended changes for the standard procedures for reporting sexual harassment and sexual assault. And this is in regards to the allegations of the 38 women that have been brought to light over the last few months. And so we as a caucus wanted to make it clear that we support women and what we would like to do in our effort to make people feel safe to come forward and report any incidents that do occur. At this time, I'm going to throw it over to Councilmember Berkeley Allen, our chairman.
Thank you, Councilmember Stiles, and thanks to those who have tuned in to this important topic. As we've said, we do want to make it clear that we support women, that we take allegations and incidents of sexual harassment and sexual assault very seriously, and we appreciate the fact that Metro does have a well-established process for reporting incidents, but we are concerned that the number of women who have come forth as having had an incident but not feeling comfortable reporting it indicates that we still have work to do. And so we have worked very deliberately, both with our Human Resources Department, with our Office of Family Safety, and with members of the Metro Police Force to learn how the process works now and to try to learn what we can do better. We believe that creating better ways for victims or alleged or perceived victims to know that there's a safe space where they can talk about what they believe has been wrongly done in a way that they can process and learn what the reporting options are could lead to a better outcome. And we encourage changes to the current process. We acknowledge that there is a good process. We would like to have our departments all work hard to create an atmosphere and culture of respect for all employees, and that within that atmosphere and culture and respect, that there is a safe process with multiple avenues that people feel comfortable coming forward. And with that, I would be happy to pass on to other council members who'd like to further comment on the discussions that we've had and specific questions that we are asking to be addressed through the process.
Well, Chairwoman Allen, I'm going to kick that conversation off. To your point about having a process for reporting, you are correct. When we have discussed this, there is a process, but it is very, very confusing. And I think that what we've seen with the individuals that have come forth, and there's conversation about whether investigations have been started, a lot of that is predicated on how safe someone feels within their department to report what's happening and feeling that their identity is protected. So that is one of the things that we are suggesting at this time, that perhaps in the variety of ways where you can report, maybe there is one standardized Metro process that begins with Metro Human Resources if it's for sexual harassment. But if it's for sexual assault, you could go and then move on to the Office of Family Safety in conjunction, and then they deal with assault cases versus just harassment. And then it's streamlined, and then all of our employees within the Metro departments can know this is the Metro policy, and they'll know where they start and how they finish, and if Metro Legal needs to be involved, and knowing that their safety would be protected. So we are suggesting that in a process, we find a way to keep identities protected and safe. And this way we can address any issues that do come forward and know that those individuals do not have to worry about retaliation from anyone in their workplace. I see that Councilmember Henderson has joined us. Councilmember Henderson, would you like to join the conversation? I believe you are on mute.
Yes, Councilwoman Stiles, my apologies. I was having some technical difficulties and couldn't get in through my laptop. So I'm joining you by phone now, and I appreciate you convening us, and I'm just happy to be here and listen and take questions as needed. I appreciate you coordinating this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Henderson. I do also see Councilmember Evans and Councilmember Van Rees. If either of you would like to share some of the things that we've discussed in terms of our suggestions moving forward.
Yes, Councilmember Stiles, this is Councilmember Nancy Van Rees. I, again, appreciate all the efforts that you and others have come together on. It's never easy to get 20 women to decide on everything, and I appreciate all the due diligence involved. I'm here particularly as chair of the LGBTQ Caucus to remind folks that sexual harassment is not a heterosexual matter. It's something that happens to all people, regretfully. And so wanting to make sure that people understand that if they find themselves in a situation that needs to be reported, that they do not hesitate based on their sexual orientation to report it. And so I appreciate the efforts on this and look forward to more discussion.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Van Rees. And so let me briefly mention in this conversation, I believe it was a couple of months ago, the Minority Metro Caucus also submitted a letter expressing our concerns regarding these allegations and the need for change. And I think it's very important that in our multiple caucuses, our Women's Caucus, our LGBTQ caucus, our Minority Caucus, we are all on the same page. Sexual harassment, sexual assault is not acceptable, and retaliation is also unacceptable. For someone who is already in a very tenuous situation to then have to worry about working on a job where their concerns and their issues and what has happened could potentially be used against them is absolutely inappropriate. And as we are moving into a season of getting a new police chief, we thought it was very important that we expressed our concerns today and make it clear when we do have our new chief, we would love to meet with you to talk about how do we move forward from this place, because we certainly have a need for growth. Is there anyone else that would?
Or you cut out.
Oh my goodness.
Welcome back.
Me. I had muted myself. So I was asking Chairwoman Allen, would you like to express anything else from what we discussed in terms of the statement or any other thoughts to share?
I would just say that we, through the process that the Women's Caucus went through just to educate ourselves on what exists there, we learned that there is a sexual harassment training requirement for every Metro employee, and that's done every 4 years. We believe that it would be beneficial to shorten that to every 2 years, simply because you forget, and it works on both directions. One is I forget that, oh yeah, this might be perceived as sexual harassment. I shouldn't say these things. But also, oh yeah, who was it what was the process and who do I talk to if I feel like something inappropriate has been done? So we feel like to go into more frequent training will hopefully prevent a large amount of inappropriate language that could be perceived as sexual harassment. And that's the main issue that we're I think starting from is let's just have this not happen, period. And when it does, let's ensure that we have a system in place where people feel comfortable addressing it. And I think we also learned that the Department of Family Safety has a great program that they are able to do partly because of what the issue they're addressing is, which is sexual assault, which is the next level up, and the anonymity is actually a key part of that. But can we learn from that process to streamline, as you said, the way the process works just within the General Metro Human Resources protocol? That has a number of things in place. Some of those are required by laws above our level that we can't change, but where we can make it so that there is more support for alleged victims, learning from what the Office of Family Safety does, I think could be beneficial. And we are grateful that we've had the opportunity to learn about that, and we hope that we can work with all those departments to implement changes metro-wide, and also to focus on departments where the issues seem to have come to light in a more concentrated manner. So back to you, Councilmember Stiles.
Thank you so very much, Councilmember Allen. At this time, I would like to open it up for questions as we have shared what we would like to see moving forward from this place. And I believe Stephanie's fielding those.
Yes, this is Stephanie Judd. We do have the question and answer portion, or if attendees who are joined through WebEx, if they would like to virtually raise their hand, we'll be able to call on them through those methods.
Excellent. So at this time, we will open the question and answer period.
I see Elizabeth Lane.
Hi, yes, this is Elizabeth Lane from Channel 2. Thanks so much for taking my question. I just wanted to ask, I know that you guys have laid out what you're calling for in terms of a more streamlined process, and also just, sort of a reiteration of the training. What will be the next step to accomplishing this mission?
Councilmember Allen, do you mind if I answer that question?
Go right ahead.
Thank you for the question. We have discussed that in the Women's Caucus, and in speaking with Human Resources and also with the Office of Family Safety, the next step would be to figure out how do we create the new process. So there's an informal partnership that exists right now, but we're looking for a more formalized and standard process moving forward that can be documented on the books.
I will also chime in that there's an invitation that's been placed at the mayor's office once the new police chief, whoever he or she may be, is announced, that they schedule them to meet with the LGBTQ caucus and the minority caucus and the women's caucus in a publicly notified manner. And so having a fresh start in regard to that is something that I think that you'll see witness just probably before the end of the year.
Thank you, Councilmember Van Rees. When do you want to see these recommendations put in place? I think to Councilmember Van Rees' comment just now, we'd like to see them implemented immediately. I think what we've learned over the last few months is the system that we have is inadequate. And as numbers grow with individuals that have concerns or allegations or incidents, and they're growing in terms of their courage to come forward, we need to provide them with a safe way to voice those concerns.
And
So,
any other council members?
I see Sergio Martinez Beltran also has his hand raised.
Okay. I do not see that. I do not see.
That is showing up on my link.
Okay. Sergio Martinez. Okay. Sergio?
He may need to be made a.
He's unmuted at this point. I'm just not sure if he's speaking. And this is Stephanie Judd.
Thank you, Stephanie.
I am talking. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I had the wrong microphone. Sorry for that. Thank you so much for chatting with us this morning, and happy Thanksgiving to everyone. I have a question about point number 2, which is the creation of a centralized process through the Department of Human Resources for educating Metro employees about the ways to report claims of sexual harassment. What is the process right now? Out of curiosity, since that point was included.
Do you want me to address this one, Councilman?
Anyone else want to take it?
Okay, you fill in gaps if I miss any. Currently, the
Yes.
process is that there are a number of different pathways where issues can be reported, either through the Metro Human Resources Department or through a department head or through each department's Human Resources Department, or you can go to the EEOC at the higher level. So there's benefit to having choices in who you can report to if you're not comfortable reporting to your direct supervisor, because that's part of the problem. However, we have some concern that having the multiple mechanisms can in some places create confusion. So can we put together or can we add to the process ways to minimize the confusion while still keeping options open for people to, again, as we've continued to say, our major concern is that people feel comfortable coming forward when there's an issue to be dealt with. And that may not always mean that there's guilt. It may mean that there's a process that needs to be worked through to have better understanding. And sometimes the process sort of takes on legs of its own just because of official requirements. So are there ways that we can allow more support on the front end before things get into a funnel where there's no options for dealing with the nuances of some of the cases?
Thank you.
Elizabeth Lane.
I think we may have had that question already.
Yes, this is Stephanie Judd again. I'll unmute Elizabeth Lane just in case this is a new question and not her hand being raised from a previous question.
Hey, yes, you got my question, Stephanie. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we'll give just another couple of moments if anyone has any additional questions before we wrap up our press conference. And should you have any questions that you think are on today, please feel free to reach out. You can email Councilmember Allen, who's our chairwoman, with any questions or concerns at berkeley.allen@nashville.gov.
I see no other questions.
Yes, well, I hope you all had a wonderful holiday, and we look forward to speaking with you in the future. Thank you so very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.